Some of the things that we're looking at depend on the enterprise license for SharePoint or the standard license for SharePoint. But whichever license you're using, there's been a huge improvement in handling of images and videos for authors. So among the many improvements are a technique called image renditions, which will let you store an image once and render it lots of different ways. And it creates automatic thumbnails of things for you. But my favorite is support for embed code, which means that you can use embed code from YouTube or Brightcove or whatever it happens to be and embed that video into your publishing page, and it's going to work, as opposed to previous versions where Microsoft was trying to push SharePoint or some proprietary sort of video player to you. Now, basically everything is going to work. All right, so let's jump over to a publishing site that I created previously that I've been in the process of branding. And I'm going to put a video onto a page that I'm going to get from YouTube and show you just how easy it is. All right, so here I have a publishing site that I created previously, and I was in the process of creating a custom master page using Design Manager, and I've got a sample page that I made from a very basic layout that I created. And so I'm going to go to that page, and above this table of information here, I'm going to insert a YouTube video. So I'm going to go to the page ribbon and edit the page, and give myself a little white space here above it. And I'm going to come over to the other browser that I've got open, which is Internet Explorer. And I have in my favorites this really old video of a much younger me talking about MOS 2007 portals. All right, so I'm going to come here to the Share tab, and we're going to embed this, and we'll change the custom size here to be, say, 320 to fit. Then I'll just select this and copy it to the clipboard. And now, on the Insert tab of my page, I'm going to insert an embedded video. So I'll just hit Control-V to paste it in, and the little tool pops right up with a preview of my video, and I can put it in, and then we'll just come to our page and save, and check it out. There's me 6 years ago talking about MOS. Search-driven publishing is a major advance in SharePoint Server 2013. Prior to 2013, navigation of publishing sites normally was driven by the storage structure underneath the covers. And aggregation was also limited by the storage structure. So there's this web part called a content query web part, and it can query the contents inside of a given site collection. And so we could only aggregate based on the system boundaries that we had by the site collection. Our navigation was based on how we had our sites and subsites set up with regards to the pages library. And, this was pretty inflexible. So with 2013, this is just so improved. And now the presentation is completely independent of the storage. It's driven by search. The navigation can be done manually, but it is also possible to drive it by metadata. And because it's based on search, there's no limits on aggregation or publishing across sites. As long as the search service can read it, then we can consume it in a publishing site, and that makes it very, very flexible. Now, out of the box, or the normal case rather, for search-driven publishing is based on the concept of catalogs. And a catalog is a list or a library that contains content for publishing. And typically these are decorated with metadata so that you can read it with search based on whatever parameters that you want. And then it gets assembled by SharePoint as published content. There is a sample site that comes along with SharePoint 2013, which is the product catalog sample site. So what we're going to do now is take a look at a product catalog that I've already created but not configured. I'm going to define some metadata, and then I'm going to define a publishing site and configure how the term set is going to be used. All right, so let's do that now. So to create a new product catalog, you open up Central Admin and go to Create Site Collections, and under the Publishing tab, there is a choice for product catalog. Now I've done this already, and mine is at sites. Prod. And you can see that just like all of the other sites in SharePoint 2013 that require configuration, that this one has a set of instructions to take you through the process of setting it up. So the first thing that I'm going to do is manage the item hierarchy in term store so that I can actually assign that to a content type. So I'm going to go into Manage Item Hierarchy in Term Store. And this opens up the term store management tool for my site. So I'm not in the Manage Metadata Service application, although I'm using it. I am in the context of my site. And down here we have the site collection, SharePoint Sites Prod 1, and an empty term set called Product Hierarchy. So I'm going to create a new term set, or a new set of terms rather, and my terms are going to be based on fish. So the normal product hierarchy would be a category of items followed by items themselves. So I'll make a term called fish, and inside of fish we'll have one fish, two fish, and bluefish. So now I'm going to select the product hierarchy term set itself and come over here to the intended use tab. And this is new in 2013. If you're familiar with metadata in 2010, you haven't seen this before. And I want to make sure that this is set as available for tagging, and I'm also going to use this for site navigation. So I'll choose Save. And then I am going to eventually take the contents of the catalog from this site and use it in the publishing site that I created previously. And so I need to specify the site collection access to say that that site collection has permission to use this term set. So just to make sure that I don't mess up the URL, I'm just going to come over and copy this. Whoops, didn't need to do that. And choose Save. All right, so now I'm going to come back up to my product catalog homepage, and I'm going to create a site column to use this. So we'll create a new site column, and we'll call this product type. This is going to be a managed metadata column, and we'll make a new group. We'll call this demo. And this is going to use the fish, and we'll choose OK. And now we'll come over here to products, and I'm going to go into the list here and take a look at the list settings. And here we have a content type called product with image, so I'm going to edit this. Oh, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I didn't actually want to mess around by creating a new column. What I want to do is actually edit the item category. All right, so that's already bound to product hierarchy. I can choose OK. And we'll come back over here to our list and just make sure that everything is looking right. All right, so far so good. Now the next thing I want to do is add some images to my site so that I can build out my product catalog. So let's talk about that. Started preparing my product site. I've got a term set that's bound to the product category column, and now I'm ready to start adding some images so that I can decorate my products with some nice pictures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use image renditions, and what image renditions are one image that has many renditions. And a rendition is a user-defined dimension for the image. And each rendition has a name, a width, and a height. Now, for image renditions to work, you have to turn on the blob cache, which I'm going to do by editing the web config file, actually, which I've done already. And once you've got image rendition working, you can actually also change the cropping for individual renditions. So you can upload a great big image, and then SharePoint will give you different renditions of it at different dimensions, but it's going to kind of default to a particular cropping for the image if it's not the dimensions of the rendition that you specified. And so you can go into the image rendition itself and say, this is the area that I would actually like to show. All right, so what we're going to do now is go back over to the product catalog, and I'll show you how I turned on the blob cache, and then we'll set up some renditions. So here we are back on the product catalog site, and I'm going to go into the site settings page, and under look and feel there's a link for image renditions. And this has all of the renditions that are available out of the box, and I could add new renditions to this, and like I said, this just gets a name, a width, and a height. Now I've already configured the blob cache for this, and so I don't see a warning that would tell me that I need to do that. But if you have not done so, you will. And the way that was done was in Internet Information Services Manager, I opened up my site, and I right-clicked on it and chose Explore, and then I opened the web config in Visual Studio. And I searched for blob. And then I turned it on by setting the enabled attribute to true. All right, so once I've done that, I'm going to go into my images folder here, and I'm going to add some images that I created previously. And just drag these up, drop them into my library. All right, and so let's take a look at these images. I'm going to select Bluefish and come up here to the Design tab, and there is an Edit Renditions button. So this shows me all of the renditions that are available to me. And this display template picture 3 lines, I'd like to change the cropping a little bit. So I'm going to click to change. I'm just going to drag this box over and click Save to center the fish a little bit. And I've noticed that in this user interface, it can be a little bit slow to pick up the change, but it has done so, and when we go to use it, we'll see it. And here's my one fish image, so I'm going to do the same with it. As you can see, the default cropping that I got there isn't good at all. And that one looks good. You get the idea. And then we'll do the same thing for Bluefish. Oh, I did Bluefish already. I meant to do 2 fish. All right, so now we should be ready to add some products. All right, so I'm going to add a product here. We'll call this one the one fish. Let's say this is 1F. Well, apparently have done something to mess up my term set. Let me go fix that quickly. I need that to work. So this is the site content type, which is product with image. And this is the item category metadata. And I'm going to edit the site column. And let's see if I've got this connected. This is kind of strange. And actually, I'm not sure if this is a bug. I've had this happen to me before, or if every time this happens I'm just being stupid. But I think it's a bug. And what the bug is when I was messing around with the intended use, I went to show you that I could use it for navigation. I think that unselects that it can be used for tagging. So I need to be on the screen here, so I'm just going to open up my site in yet one more tab. And go into site settings and go to term store management, and let's see. So this is product hierarchy, and sure enough, I need this to be available for tagging. And I am going to use this for navigation, but not in this site. All right, so I'll save that. Let's come over here now and refresh this page. There we go. Much better. All right, so back to products, and we're going to add a new item. And there we go, it's not grayed out anymore. So this is going to be the OneFish. And we'll give this a roll-up image. And here's where the image rendition comes into play. And we're going to say that this is the display template picture on top. And you can see that my rendition came across nicely, and it is cropped, even though there's a little bit of lag on the rendition screen itself. And then we'll add in a TwoFish. And we'll select the roll-up image. Whoops, let's do that again. I didn't pick the right rendition. Let's try this again. New item, TwoFish. Display template picture on top. There we go, much better. And then the third item. And I'm not going to do this, but the other thing that's cool about renditions is now if I went into the image rendition itself and changed it, then anywhere that it was used would update automatically. All right, now I'm going to approve all of these items, because I'm going to need them to be approved here in just a little bit. All right, so at this point, I have got some products in my product catalog that have been approved. They're using some images that are based on some image renditions, and now I'm going to be almost ready to do my cross-site or my search-driven publishing. So let's talk about navigation. Now, the first thing that you need to know about navigation is that the old ways of doing navigation and publishing sites still work. But it's possible for you to also use metadata instead. And when you use metadata, you select a term set, and that defines the navigation. And then the pages, due to the magic of SharePoint publishing, are tied to the terms automatically. When you do this, you can edit, configure, and reorder the terms as desired, and it works just like magic. All right, so what we're going to do now is go back over to the publishing site that I've been working on and take a look at the navigation options and see how they work with regards to the term sets. All right, so here we are back on our publishing site, and right now you can see that I have some links, test from layout in the top and the quick launch. And I can edit the navigation right here. I can add a new link. Maybe we'll say that this is going to link to Bing. Doesn't really matter what I put in here because I'm not going to type it. And so I can save this. And so what this is doing is it's defining the navigation for me. And I can come into the site settings page here and go to the navigation link. And if we come down here to the site navigation term set, I can see that when I added that link, it actually added it to a term set called site navigation. So manage metadata is the default. And I can open up the term store management tool if I want and edit the site navigation term set right here. And we'll just delete this term. And come back over to the site settings page. And if we go into navigation now, it should be reflected here as well that we only have the two terms. Now, the old ways still work, so I could use structural navigation, and this gives me options very similar to what I had in SharePoint 2010, which is that it will drive based on the contents of the site, based on the site structure instead of based on the manage metadata navigation. So when I click OK there, then I get a link back out to the home page, and we get all site content. Right, it doesn't like something about that, but let's go ahead and fix this back. We're going to set navigation back to the way it was, which is to use manage navigation. And we'll choose OK. All right, so if I wasn't going to do cross-site publishing, then I would probably use the default, which is the managed metadata-based navigation. Every time I add a page, it's going to create a new term for me, and I can edit links, which would add in new terms. But I am going to use search-driven publishing, so let's talk about that now. So cross-site publishing or search-driven publishing uses catalogs as the data source for publishing pages. Each category gets a page, and each item has a page. So by default, we have a category roll-up and then a page for each item inside of the category. And when we turn on a catalog, either we have to sit and wait for the search index to do its thing, or we need to try to force it somehow. Now, when continuous crawling is turned on, the normal time for the index to get kind of up to date based on tests I've seen is just a couple of minutes. And so what I typically do when I turn on a catalog is I just have a cup of coffee or talk to the person on the other cube, and I just wait, and then I keep going. What we're going to do now, though, is go back over to our product catalog where I've got the fish, which I've already approved, and we're going to establish that product catalog as a catalog that we can then connect to from the publishing site. All right, so here we are at our products list inside of the product catalog, and I'm going to go into the list settings page. And under the general settings column, there is a catalog settings link. And what I'm going to do is enable this library as a catalog, and then I need to select what the URL fields are going to be, and this is going to drive the URL scheme within the site. So instead of being forced to use /pages some page name, I actually have some control over this. So what I'm going to do is use the item category first and then the title. And then I need to select the column that categorizes items for navigation. This is another form of managed metadata navigation, except this time it's driven off of the catalog itself. So I'm going to say this is going to be item category. And it warns me that I need to make sure that the connected site has been given access to the term set. So we'll come over to Term Store Management and just check that out real quick. And we can see here in Site Collection Access that it does say SharePoint Sites Pub. All right, so I'll choose OK. And now I need the search crawler to do its thing. So if you're really impatient, what you can do is go over and just click Start All Crawls. I'm not even convinced that that does anything. It may just be that that takes a couple of minutes in order to run. So what we'll do is we'll come back over to the publishing site here now. I'll close this extra tab and this extra tab so I don't get confused. And we'll go into the site settings page. And then under Site Administration, there's a link that says Manage Catalog Connections. So I'm going to click Connect to a Catalog, and I can see that catalogs shared in the last few minutes will not appear in this list until the next scheduled search crawl. So like I said, if you're being really impatient, what you can do is you can go into Manage Service Applications and go into the Search Service application, click Manage, find your content sources, and click Start All Crawls. And then get back over to the catalog connection screen and just click refresh a whole bunch of times until your catalog eventually appears. And we're just going to wait a second. And at last it appears, and we click Connect. All right, so we're going to integrate this catalog into my site. We need to specify the root term of the hierarchy, which is going to be fish. And we will choose OK. All right, so let's see. All right, check it out. One fish. Two fish, blue fish. The content search web part lies at the very heart of cross-site publishing. It's also the heart of search. In a nutshell, what this does is it replaces the content query web part, and its contents are populated by an actual search query from a defined result source. And then when the search query comes back, it's rendered by a display template based on the result type that comes back. You can make your own display templates. There are a whole bunch available out of the box, and you can do that in Design Manager. And as Design Manager will tell you, the easiest way to do this is copy and modify an existing display template. All right, so what we're going to do now is just jump back over our publishing site and take a look at a content by search web part and see what it's all about. All right, so we'll come over to this test page that I created previously, and what I'm going to do is edit the page, and we'll get rid of this video so it's not in our way, and I'm going to come up to the Insert tab on the page ribbon here, and I'm going to insert a web part. And here we have the search-driven content link. And so these are the different web parts that drive search-driven publishing. And then up here in Content Rollup, we have the web part which is called Content Search. And these are all really closely related. You can see that there's a huge description for this. I'm just going to choose Add. And this comes in with just a default result set. And so we get PR and Home. These are images that are actually inside of this publishing site when it gets provisioned. So what I'm going to do is edit this web part so we can take a look and see what it's all about. So here we can actually specify how many items to show, and we can control the search query. So we have a bunch of queries that are available to us out of the box. And we could choose products. And there are the relevant results: one fish, two fish, and blue fish. There's an advanced mode that we could use. And most people are just going to be able to be perfectly happy with the basics mode. But if you need to select a result source, you can click that link, and this takes you right into the Manage Result Sources page inside of Site Settings. There's all sorts of stuff that you can select here: refiners and sorting. And then at the end, you can do your test. So we'll choose OK here and apply it. And you can see that it comes right up. Now, I'm not going to do any additional configuration on this. What I do want to show you, though, is where these display templates are. So we'll go ahead and save our page. And because I don't have a rendition specified, as I didn't go through any additional configuration, you can see that the cropping is all off. But where these are defined is under Design Manager. And in Design Manager, there is a link to Edit Display Templates. And this works exactly like creating a master page or a page layout does, which is that you map a folder into the master page gallery, and then you edit the HTML file. And except in this case, instead of producing an ASPX page for you, what it does is it produces JavaScript. So I still have a mapping to the master page gallery. And here we have a Display Templates folder. And here are our search templates. And here are all the ones that are available to you out of the box. And so what you do, like I said, if you want to create a new display template, the easiest thing to do is take one that already exists and edit it. I'm just going to pick one at random here. We'll take a look at Personal Favorite, and we'll open this with Visual Studio 2012. You can also get to these via SharePoint Designer. That's the tool you'd prefer to use. And here's what the file looks like. So as you can see, it's a bunch of HTML with a bunch of snippets in it. And what happens as you change this is that SharePoint produces a JavaScript file for you. The JavaScript file, not very simple. And so this is a good way to go about it. If you're not using publishing sites, you still have the ability to use display templates. And so what I like to do is cheat and use a publishing site and use Design Manager to generate these new JavaScript files for myself.